This all started with a simple question. What is the strongest attack possible in Remnant 2? Originally, the highest I'd seen was over 5 million in an older patch of the game, and you'd assume that in the final version getting close to that value wouldn't be possible anymore. And then I exceeded 1 billion damage, and going slightly higher caused the damage display to break entirely. Since then, I've made a variety of new discoveries and learned that this value I previously found ridiculous. You could square it to get 1 quintillion, and it's still not even 1% of the maximum damage possible. No, I'm not joking. And I will be explaining how this maximum damage is achieved, and why, despite being possible without cheating, its insane requirements mean that no human is ever going to perform it. Let's start with the necessary equipment. Our weapon of choice is the Dark Matter Gauntlets, a fitting weapon for effectively making Saitama, and is legitimately the strongest weapon available that benefits from every key exploit I will be using in this video. We also have the Hunting Bow equipped with the Defrag mod and Corrupted Rune Pistol. Both weapon mods cause enemies to drop orbs on kill that buff your stats. Defrag increases damage by plus 20%, while Death Brands increase weak spot damage by plus 10%, along with creating an aura that increases all damage by another plus 10%. There's going to be a lot of stat buffs in this video, so I've added this tally to help keep track. Having Invader with Wormhole as the primary shouldn't surprise anyone. Between the damage perk, prime perk bonus, and skill, this class increases melee damage by plus 350%. Hunter as a secondary is a little more unusual for a melee build, but it is one of the very limited sources of general weak spot damage, giving an increase of plus 15%. Hunter's Shroud can provide up to plus 50% melee damage, but because of how long the charge attack takes, we end up losing a small portion of that bonus, resulting in around 44% instead. In the amulet slot we have Matriarch's Insignia for plus 35% melee damage. It's the strongest option available without any messy activation requirements. Ring 1 is Meteorite Shard for plus 50% unarmed damage, which is additive with melee bonuses. Ring 2 is the Floodlit Diamond for plus 12% weak spot damage, or 24% if the target is affected with Exposed, which we will be doing. Exposed itself also adds another plus 15% damage on top of that. Ring 3 is Burden of the Mesmer. This might seem odd when the Tarnished ring exists, but it's crucial for one of our exploits. This is also where I discovered a somewhat amusing fact. In trying to maximize the ring's power, which is based on total damage reduction, I found out you can actually achieve a base reduction of 138.5%. And because of how the defense formula works, it is so high that wearing armor actually causes the total DR to go down. Meaning this build is a legitimate case of tactical nudity. This image might give Vash Kawaii a brain aneurysm, but since the ring ignores the DR cap, the end result is us gaining plus 27% more damage. The final ring is the Force Multiplier. You may be wondering why I'm using an F tier ring for the strongest attack possible. Well, that's because this ring was programmed rather poorly. The way it provides its listed damage multiplier to overcharged shots is by applying a general damage multiplier. This would normally be fine, but the developers made a mistake where the removal condition is not firing the current shot, but when you fire the next projectile. The result is that after firing the maximum overcharged shot, the 1.3 times multiplier remains and increases the damage of most non-projectile attacks, including melee weapons. This is an incredibly niche use case, but when it works, it is the strongest ring in the game for those builds. For the Prism, this is the optimized setup that provides plus 25% melee damage, plus 30% weak spot damage, and plus 20% crit damage, with slight animation speed buffs and 5% damage reduction. The most important part is the Master Killer Legendary perk, as it is a 1.35 times multiplier to all attacks, so long as they're hitting a weak spot. For consumables, the only concoction we need is a meat shake, and our hotbar consumables include Brightstones for applying their 1.1 times damage multiplier, Confidence Booster and Sweet Leaf for extra damage reduction, and Rocket Fuel for extra attack speed. The relic we're using is the Void Heart, which for a brief moment after using will give us plus 50% damage reduction to go with Burden of the Mesmer. The traits I'm using are listed here and mostly focus on duration and animation speed increases to ensure that everything can be fit in before landing the attack. Last up is Boss Rush, and for the maximum benefit you'll need to find the Chopper, Precision, Magnify, Hardened, and Accelerator buffs. At maximum levels, these will give you plus 75% melee damage, plus 50% weak spot damage, plus 50% critical damage, plus 25% damage reduction, and plus 37.5% melee speed. You also gain plus 5% to all damage for every pillar buff collected, maxing out at 125% at 25 pillars. This covers every possible bonus you can obtain at once, at least while you're solo. Prior to entering Boss Rush, you'll need to have recruited some other players with a very specific combination of items. For maximum benefit, these players will need to be equipped with Archon with Chaos Gate, Alchemist with Stone Mist, Explorer with Gold Digger, and Handler with Attack Dog. Assuming Alchemist manages to roll the 5% damage buff on relic use, this combination of skills gives you a 70% damage bonus, 25% damage reduction, and a little extra movement speed from haste. They too will be using Defrag and Corrupted Rune Pistol to maximize the chances of getting the buff, but they'll also have the Fetid Wounds Mutator equipped, along with the Insult to Injury Legendary bonus. This provides another plus 10% damage from Corrosion, and is our way of applying Expose to fully activate the Floodlit Diamond. With the Dark Matter Gauntlets base 150 damage, 110% weak spot bonus, and 4.1 times damage multiplier from the charged backstep, this attack would currently deal over 84,000 damage. And though it requires some good luck for one of you to get all the right boss rush buffs and then have everything in the perfect position, I'd still consider this reasonably achievable. From here, that concept goes right out the window, as we have to now locate a very particular species of creature, the Metal Keula. Most players are likely aware of the glitch where destroying the heart of this species can cause an incredibly high damage number to appear alongside the original value. I, on the other hand, am its leading expert. 4 months of research led to me discovering exactly how the value is calculated for every attack, and I have shared my findings on this Heartburn glitch in a video I will link in the description. Thankfully, our setup gets to use one of the easier equations that I can explain in under a minute. Melee weapons use the general Heartburn formula, which looks something like this. The short explanation for why is because the heart and body are separate entities, the heart deals your damage directly to the body for killing blows, and effectively causes the damage formula to run twice. Certain values, and especially damage multipliers, are split between heart and body modifiers that only affect the individual target. In this scenario, a charged attack's multiplier only affects the heart, while force multiplier and brightstones can affect both. The only weird exception to this rule is Master Killer, which gets applied 3 times due to their effectively being full weak spot hits. Using our prior values, the actual numbers look a bit like this, and the resulting attack is estimated to deal almost 4.9 billion damage, or over 4 times higher than the in-game damage display limit. That said, because the critical chance for both heart and body crit are separate instances, to get this value you effectively need to roll 2 critical hits in a row with next to no critical chance investment. Compounded with the fact that Metal Keulas only spawn on one map and isn't even a guaranteed spawn there, this set of requirements become borderline impossible. Yet despite this, I could still imagine some truly crazy players considering an attempt if this were the limit. Somehow, it isn't, and the difficulty gets dramatically worse, though this time it's not because of luck. Observant viewers might have noticed that I've yet to equip a mutator to the Dark Matter Gauntlets. That's because of the final exploit we're using, and the one that truly started me on this journey, Infinite Damage Guts. I also have a video explaining this one, but in short, the Guts mutator increases your critical damage based on the percent of your max health as grey health, except that unlike other mutators, no fixed damage cap was ever added to it. In combination with that, it's possible for grey health to exceed the maximum health cap using a few specific setups. These can be performed infinitely, allowing the mutator to reach astronomically high damage. The name is a bit of a misnomer though. While the methods can be repeated infinitely, the actual amount of grey health you can generate is limited due to how computers work. For those who haven't studied computer science, Remnant 2 stores health and grey health in something called a float, which is a 32-digit binary number, just like the more commonly used integer. In both cases, these data types assign their digits into powers of 2, except the first one, which is used to indicate positive or negative. An integer uses these powers of 2 by simply organizing them from 30 to 0, and adds together all the binary values set as a 1 to find the final value, encompassing every whole number between 0 to just over 2 billion. Floats, on the other hand, shift these powers down by 23, separates the values into two new sections called the exponent and mantissa, and uses the following formula to calculate its stored value. This both expands the size of the numbers it can store, and grants it the ability to work with decimal values. Where this formula causes a problem for us is that as the value gets higher and higher, it results in lower precision. For example, once a float reaches the value of 2 to the power of 24, the smallest value possible you can add becomes 2. If you try to add anything smaller, it just gets ignored, and for every new power of 2 achieved, the value you need to add also doubles. The highest power of 2 bracket we can exceed without requiring concoctions is above the 1024 bracket, or 2 to the power of 10. This requires using the Black Greatsword generator with 260% grey health conversion and at least 270 health. You then need to take at minimum 263 damage for a base 132 grey health generated, multiplied by 2.6, multiplied by Black Greatsword's 3 times multiplier while charging for 1026 grey health. Checking with a quick C++ program, this means the highest value you can reach is 2 to the power of 35, or over 34 billion grey health. The build currently on screen allows you to do this without requiring any consumables and has fast enough regen that you can spam black holes with minimal wait times. It accounts for the stats you'll have before Metal Kaula, but I recommend first testing with Black Cat Band equipped just to make sure it's not going to kill you. As for how long it would take to reach the limit, using our example build stats and accounting for the grey health loss from regen until it's so high Spirit Healer can't lower it, which happens around 134 million or 2 to the power of 27, and a minimum use time of roughly 5 seconds, it would take a player over 5 consecutive years of non-stop generation to reach the max value. Feel free to try it if you want, but I hope you'll understand my reluctance towards a practical demonstration. Assuming you somehow did get this much grey health, the final step would be to minimize your max HP, as the critical damage bonus is based on the percentage of your grey health out of total health. This is why we have the Burden of the Mesmer, and using the All-Seeing Eye can reduce your max HP by a flat 15 points as one of its effects. Combined, this leaves you with a maximum of only 68 HP. Max grey health divided by 68 and times 100 equals roughly 50 billion% grey health, times 0.5 gives us a total increase of over 25 billion% critical damage. Then you remember what the Heartburn formula does to critical damage, and realize my original claim of a quintillion being less than 1% was a massive understatement. So to recap, you and 2 other players have to collect all the necessary gear, find all the required pillar buffs, and then locate Metal Kaola's map only after maxing the level of said buffs. Then you have to spend 5 years building up grey health without anyone disconnecting or crashing, successfully roll the health down effect with the All-Seeing Eye with a 6-minute wait between failed attempts since it can't be refreshed, and in that time also have your alchemist friend roll the correct relic buff on you with a 1-minute wait between failed attempts, all without aggroing the area enemies. Then you have to hope the game even decides to let a Metal Kaola spawn, and after confirming it's there, you have to coordinate with your team to have the buffs from all your consumables, everyone's skills, and the orbs of defrag and corrupted rune pistol active at once. Finally, as you consume a void heart, Metal Kaola needs to throw its heart out, and within 4 seconds, the Brightstone, Corroded, and Exposed status must get applied to both targets. You need to use Wormhole and successfully land the fully charged backstep attack. All of this without getting hit once in an area full of projectile-based enemies, and at the end of it all, you only have around a 22% chance of landing the double critical hit. Despite being a psychotic horror show of requirements, this is, in the loosest of terms, possible to do without cheating. And your final reward for pulling it off is being able to hit regular enemies for over 9.7 trillion damage. But for a Metal Kaola's heart, the final calculation estimates an output of around 9.5 decillion. To get an idea of how powerful that is, we can refer to a video by the channel Because Science on the strength of Saitama's serious punch at the end of the anime's first season. During it, they state that Saitama, at best, deflected an attack with enough energy to completely destroy the Earth, requiring around 100 nonillion joules, as that's the strength of Earth's gravitational binding. Attempting to verify this has multiple sources claiming the real value is closer to 250 nonillion, but if every point of damage we deal equals 1 joule of energy, at worst, our punch causes Metal Kaola to explode with enough force to destroy over 38 Earth-sized planets at once, likely wiping out Geisha entirely if we weren't bound by video game logic. Sure, Saitama has performed greater feats since then, but the fact we got this high with a base damage of 150 is pure madness. And the best part? You can stick a soul binder on Metal Kaola's body, and now you also deal 5.7 decillion damage to anything in the mod's radius, vaporizing the planet a second time just for good measure. The root might claim to be inevitable, but it can't take over a planet if that planet no longer exists. Far as I know, there's no other ways to push this damage any further without cheating, though if I somehow missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments. I really enjoyed pushing this game to the limit, and I hope you enjoyed watching and learned something new about Remnant 2. If you did, perhaps you'd consider subscribing and doing all the other YouTube things for showing support. I'm going to be making a poll later for the next topic, so let me know there what you'd like to see next. But for now, I suggest you be on your way.